Hey everyone, Tech OG here, who's all about tech and travel. If you're a fan of HHPCs like I am, you probably have already noticed that the market is starting to flood a little bit. A lot of companies are making HHPCs, and it's good that there's competition, but because of the inundation of the HHPCs, it's kind of hard to decide which one to get. So I wanted to ask, what compels you to purchase an HHPC or a handheld PC? What are the factors that you consider in purchasing an HHPC? What are the things that draw you to buy it? Now, of course, for everyone, the factors can be different. There could be some similar things, but everyone has their own preferences. So I want to talk about the things that compel me to even look at an HHPC in consideration for purchase. I better hurry up with this video because I have a class coming in about 9 minutes. I'll also use some examples of HHPCs to help show or let you know about the factors that I choose for purchasing an HHPC. Our first factor I want to talk about is portability. And when it comes to portability, for me, that includes the weight and the size of the HHPC. This particular HHPC was made, 6-7 years ago, and for me, this is still the best portable HHPC that was ever created. This was created by GPD. This is the GPD Win 2. This HHPC is one of the most portable HHPCs I have ever seen and have ever owned. You can actually fit this in your pocket. With the GPD-1 being the most portable of any HHPCs ever made. Now this HHPC right here, this is the GPD Win Mini. This, some people have called the successor of the GPD Win 2, but for me, this is basically in between the GPD Win 2 and the GPD Win Max, which I'll show you in a few. It's like basically in between. So it's slightly bigger than the GPD Win 2, but very similar to the GPD Win Max. So like I said, it's a breed of the two. This one is definitely portable, but not pocketable because, like I said, it's slightly bigger than the GPD Win 2. Another factor that I look for, but it's not on the top of my list, the power of the device. Even though the GPD Win 2 is absolutely portable, because this was made, 6-7 years ago, the power of it is not credible for a lot of the newer games that are made for today. And it definitely can't play your AAA PC games. So Spider-Man Miles Morales, pretty much impossible to play on there. And a lot of God of War, definitely not playing on there. So even though the portability is great for this device, the power is not. And you can't switch out the parts and replace the processor with a newer processor. It's just not made for the newer processors. It was just made for the fixed processors and the fixed components that are inside of it right now. Now when it comes to power, we're talking about the processor and the graphics chip. So the newest AMD processor, for example, is the 8840U. Right now, GPD, and that's the company that makes these devices, they are promoting their GPD Win Max 2. This is one of their popular HHPCs, or we'll just call it a mini laptop that is housing the newer processor. And that is not the total amount that they have right now. This is the total amount from the campaign from last year's GPD Win Max 2 2023 version. As you see, is in 2022. So they didn't update this, but they are doing a campaign right now, like I said, for the 2024 version, this year's version of the Win Max 2 with the newer processor. So when it comes to power, that has power. That has definite power. So it can play for example, PS3 emulation games at full speed. It is totally amazing. Now the next factor that I look at, it deals with power, because the more power that you have, the more it costs. So price is another factor that I look at. I certainly do not want to spend over $1,000 on a niche product as this. If I want to spend $1,000 on a PC, especially a portable one, I might as well get myself a full size laptop. And one that I particularly like is the Asus ROG Flow, either the X13 or the Z13. I like those a lot. I would rather have that and spend this kind of money on that device instead of this one. And one of the main reasons why is because GPD is it's a Chinese company. It's not in the US. And so when it comes to customer support, you're not going to get, the most speedy customer support because they're all the way in China. Let's say something goes wrong with this. You have to ship it to China. And you know how that can be. They can get lost in shipment. They can get lost in China, and you may never see it again. So that's a huge risk. So when you buy this, you know you're buying it as is. So if it breaks, for the most part, that's just the way it is. So if I'm going to get something, like I said, for that amount of money, I'd rather get something that has customer support right here in the US, so that if I need something fixed, I can ship it off to the manufacturer, wherever it is in the US, to know that I'm going to get it back and have it fixed. So the price of the GPD Win Max 2 with the newest processor, with 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is awesome, and 2 terabytes of storage, $1,311, and that's the crowdfunding price. It's going to go up later. So that's a pretty good price, but like I said, that's still too much for me to invest in something where if it breaks, I might not be able to get it fixed. And that's a lot of money to invest in something that can get fixed. Oh, I forgot to mention this one when it comes to price and portability and power. The GPD Win 4 is an excellent HHPC. The size of it is not that big. It's slightly bigger than a PS Vita. It was made, in the form factor of the Vita or the PSP. It's definitely thicker, of course, because of the turbine fan that keeps the hot air, keeps it cool on the inside. Pretty nice screen, and I'm gonna go over screen in a minute because that's another factor. And it's not totally expensive, but the price is up there, especially for the power that you want to have out of it. The next factor I look at is the screen size. I mean, it's not high on my list, but you want to have a screen that's big enough for you to see the content that you're playing. You want to have a screen big enough to be able to read the font of the content that you're playing. So if your screen is too small, sometimes your font might be too small. So if you're playing, for example, Diablo 4 on a small screen device, the font reading is going to be very tiny, so you have to put it close to your face. So if you have, for example, the Win Max 2, that screen size is beautiful. That's what, a 10-inch screen? So you can play, with the device far away from you. Let's say you're sitting on the couch and you have it, on a stand or whatever. You can still be able to read the font at a pretty good distance. So you don't have to put it close to your face if it's too small. But with the Win 4, you might have to put it closer to you in order to read the font. So a nice screen size is a factor when it comes to, for me, buying an HHPC. So it can't be too small. So a 6-inch screen, that's borderline. 7-inch screen, 8-inch screen, those are pretty nice. That's kind of like a sweet spot. 10-inch, that can be kind of big, because we're looking at this one right here. Not the one that's flying. I was looking at. Oh man, it switched. Give me a second. Nope, I was on the wrong tab. This baby right here, the One X Player X1, it looks fantastic. That's a 10.1-inch screen with detachable controllers. Can't go wrong with that. Has the Intel processor, the Ultra 155H. But basically, no, it's an 11-inch screen. You might as well round it up. But that's a little too big. That's getting into the laptop category, laptop screen size category. And again, I would rather get the Asus ROG Flow over this for the amount that it is being sold for. And it's pretty up there, I can tell you that. So you have to do your own research when it comes to doing the pricing. This next factor, which is for me on the very top of my list, this is the number one thing that I really look for. functionality. How can I use it for how I use it during the day? Because here I'm at work, I want to make sure that I can use my device for work. So if I need to do a PowerPoint or create a lesson plan, I can do that. And for play, having the power to play my game. So functionality, I like a device that can do more than just game. So I don't particularly like the ones that are dedicated just for gameplay. And don't get me wrong, they're still good devices, but they're just not the devices for me. So the Steam Deck, that's not for me. Good device, not for me. It doesn't have the functionality that I would like it to have. For example, I would like my HHPC to have a keyboard. And there are some that do have keyboards. There's a lot of One X player devices that do have keyboards, and I like those a lot. And truthfully, I like One X player, the company and the devices, because most of the devices that I've owned and used have the functionality that I like. So it has a keyboard, nice screen size, good power depending on the particular one, and it has sometimes hidden support, such as pen support. Because me being a music teacher, I can draw on my screen, draw notes on my screen, write up music on my screen, and show my kids, and even cast it onto a smart board so that the kids can see, and I can draw stuff in real time right on the screen. I think that's fantastic. So that's the functionality that I'm looking for work and for play. So like I said, if it's just made for play, that would not be a device that I would get. Now, if that's all that you're going to do with the device, then the Steam Deck or the One X Player 1S or the One X Player 2 will be good devices for you. But even though I mentioned One X Player 1S and the One X Player 2, those have keyboards for that device. So it's still the same form factor as the Steam Deck. Or I will say the Steam Deck is the same form factor of that because the One X Player came out before the Steam Deck. We got to give credit where credit is due. The One X Player also has more functionality. Keyboard, pen support, things like that. And the last factor that I look for is kind of in the middle of my list, modability. What that basically means is, can you take the backing off? Can you replace the SSD? Let's say you get a 512 SSD HHPC, but you want to replace it to a 4 terabyte. Can you do that? Is it difficult to take the backing off, go through the wiring, and get to the SSD slot? So there's some that are made very easily to replace the SSD, and there are some that are absolutely complicated. The One X players, those are kind of complicated. The SSD slot on the GPD WinMax 2 is one of the easiest. The GPD Win 2 is the easiest. It just has a cover that's covering the SSD. You just take a screwdriver, unscrew one screw, and you take the SSD out and you put another one in. It is that simple for the Win 2. Now the WinMax 2, that's the second simplest device I've ever replaced an SSD on. I mean, it's totally simple. Seriously, it will take you about 5 minutes. You can, you clone the one that's inside, and then you take that one out, the one you clone, the one that's inside the device, take you nothing, probably 5 to 6 minutes. Even if it's your first time, 5 to 6 minutes, put the new one in, that's basically it. But there are some that takes 15, 20 minutes because there's a lot of screws, hidden screws, and you want to be careful when replacing that particular SSD. So modability, can I replace the SSD? Can I mod it to different specifications? Because I do know that's with the Asus Rogue Ally, there's some people that took out the RAM, or I think extended the RAM. I don't know if you can actually take it out because I think it's soldered to the motherboard, but they expanded the RAM from 16 gigabytes of RAM to 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I think that's incredible that it can be done. So like I said, modability, because in that case, you are basically wanting to get the device and keep it as long as possible by modding it to be able to play AAA games by increasing the RAM or increasing the storage so that you can have more games stored on there. So that's the thing that I'm looking for too, because I don't want to keep buying a new device every year, kind of like how some people buy a new smartphone every year because of the increase in power or storage or whatnot. When I buy a device, I want to keep it for about 5, 6, 10 years so that I can get the most out of it. And that's basically my list of criteria when it comes for me in looking for buying a handheld. Now, you may have more things on your criteria, but I'm pretty sure that the ones that I've mentioned, either some or even all of the ones that I've mentioned, are things that you look for as well when it comes to purchasing an HHPC. If you have anything different, you can leave that in the comment section and let me know what factors you look for. And maybe if I haven't seen those factors that you mentioned, maybe I can consider those as things that I would look at as well when purchasing my next HHPC. So I hope you enjoyed the video and enjoyed the content and you enjoyed the information. If you have, definitely leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends about my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video.